thank you so much for tuning in again to Tazeen TV, a space dedicated for you to explore your own spirituality, healing and growth. Now, I'm delighted and extremely honoured to be joined today by Sandra Biskind. Sandra, welcome. It's wonderful to meet you. For those less familiar with your work, I just want to share that Sandra is CEO and founder of Global Soul Spiritual Mentorship. She's also co-creator of the Platinum Life System, plenty about that coming up, as well as co-author of the international #1 best-selling CODEBREAKER book, and director with Lifewave Energy Patch Technology, which, Sandra, I'm so excited we get to talk about this because I've only just started using them this year, and it's brilliant to get some more wisdom and your experience of these patches as well. So welcome.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be here. I can actually feel this incredible love and divine energy that we're co-creating together, and just feels beautiful. So thank you for inviting me on your show.
No, thank you. And I'm so delighted. In fact, just before we began, we were connecting on Sufism, and I was kind of sharing about my own journey within Sufism. And it's just so beautiful that you connect and know so much about this very beautiful tradition.
Oh, I love Sufism. We had a Sufi wedding. We actually had 3 Sufi weddings, and the woman who married us, Halima McEwen, was the head of the Sufi Order of the West. Hazrat Anayat Khan was obviously the person that she was very, very much in love with. But what I found so beautiful about this is that Sufism embraces everyone that holds the light and love of God aloft. And for me, that was, I was in. The moment I heard that, it was like, well, that's it. That's what this is, because I have been having deeply spiritual experiences all of my life. But when I had my first religious experience in a church at the age of 14, I was like, oh no, this is not what it is all about. This is not it. And it was such an interesting juxtaposition from the 3-year-old who would go to bed at night, and this incredible man, he called himself Jesus, would come and speak to me. And so I had this connection to this divine being, and we were not in a religious family, so I had never heard that name before. And then I just was so hooked on everything to do with God and love, because at that stage, as a small baby, really, I mean, I was told that I was a child of God, that I was love, and that it was my job to actually help people understand that that's exactly who they are. And I remember going to my mummy at around 4 years of age and saying, "Mummy, I'm going to be a priest when I get older." And she said, "No, you're not, son. You're not Catholic and you're not a man." And I do remember going away and thinking, I don't know what Catholic is, but I know I'm not a man. And I thought, well, nuns are women. So I went back the next day and said, "Okay, Mummy, I'll be a nun." And she said, "No, Sandra, you don't want to be a nun, sweetheart. You won't be able to get married and have babies." And I did put my hands on my hips, and you know that 3- and 4-year-olds can do that quite well. And I looked up into her eyes and I said, "Don't you worry about a thing, Mummy. When I get older, I will work for God." And so I just knew that that was my calling right from a very young age.
How beautiful, Sandra. And you've touched on so many elements in this, actually. Last weekend, I was attending the Festival of Ray, which is the first interfaith festival where women of different traditions who have taken on that gauntlet to become priests, imams, and rabbis across the 3 major traditions got to share their experience of being women leaders of faith. And of course, it's such a journey with the divine feminine, her awakening within us, and really the sort of misogyny, patriarchy that has gripped religion over the centuries. And I mean, myself, I identify so much with what you're sharing with respect to the Islamic tradition, where the role of women has always been such a struggle, and it's gone through generations. And so we've got, of course, this intergenerational trauma that's coming up very globally on a very wide scale at the moment, as I feel like our grandmothers are sort of slowly whispering to us to awaken just into everything you've shared about this deep self-love, but not in this crazy, narcissistic, social media driven, all about me selfie love, because that's not it either.
No, well, that's actually not really love. I mean, if you think about it, love is definitely not an emotion. Love has nothing to get, give, or do. Love is the most powerful energy in the cosmos. So love is a presence. You know, love is how we want to show up. Love is home, because actually God is love. So when we're in that energy frequency of love, that highest frequency, we're home in the heart of God. And so that's not narcissistic on any level. In fact, it's expanding, it's inclusive, it's tolerant, patient, it's everything that, I mean, it's joy. I even talk about, I can't wipe the smile off my face, and I talk about love and God in the same breath, because that's when everybody's heart, I mean, this conversation we're having alone, the frequency of this conversation is so high. I mean, I'm sure you can feel it, and everybody watching, that this is we're up here with this frequency, and that's love. Love is when you're showing up with that light so bright deep within us that people are almost blinded. They go, what is this? I want what she's having, or I want what he's having, right? And that's God, that's love in action. And we've all been given a mission and a purpose to actually show up as the best version of who we are. But to do that, we really have to clear out unconscious programs. And I'm talking about programs from all of our ancestors, which is really what you're saying as well. And I go as far as to say, and all of our past lives. We've got genetic inheritance. We've got millions of miles of DNA deep within us with so much information in it that not all of it serves us. In fact, hardly any of it serves us, because it's perceptions, it's projections, it's events, emotions, and decisions that were made in times of trauma and pain, and that our ancestors made in times of trauma and pain, that once we clear it out, we become free to actually love fully. But whilst ever it's there, love becomes the social media love. It becomes the narcissistic love. People are really opening up and waking up now to what real love is. And I just see people cry. You know, it's like, oh, you mean I'm free? I'm free to be me. I'm free to say, it doesn't matter what I've said or done. I still deserve love and support. You know, I am forgiven and I forgive. I mean, there's so much going on in just that one little sentence that you said just before I started talking.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, I want to kind of break this down, because the ethereal meta high level is one thing, but we are embodied.
Yes.
We're human. Part of Earth School, as Byron Katie always says, is, you know, to become the believer of the dream and then to slowly awaken from it. And Earth School is pretty difficult. And what you've described sounds so simple, and yet
it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. You realize, Tazeen, you just hit on something so important. The reason why we wrote Codebreaker, this is the book, and you can see it's a hefty volume. You know, this took us 5 years. The reason why we wrote this book is because we were really given we were downloaded this information that we understood was our legacy to the world. And it's a system that is so simple. However, in order to master it, you have to master your mind. It's a mind training system. And once you start mastering your mind, living in a 3D reality becomes a very different experience. Because if you think about it, everything that you think has a vibration and a frequency, and everything that you think creates an emotional reaction of one one kind or the other, which means the body, your 3D body, is constantly either being uplifted and supported, or it's constantly being downgraded and put into a place where it is open and susceptible to disease and unhappiness. So you've got these two, well, we call them codes. You've got the fear code and the love code. So the love code, yes, right?
I know, I was just literally going to pull the question out without me having to ask it, which is these opposites that we traverse in fear, love. I mean, I can hold love and fear in the same moment, or I experience love in my inhalation, and I will be trembling with fear in the exhalation. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to how we can make this sustainable and a consistent experience.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's the feedback, Tazeen, thank you. That's the feedback that we've been getting from people who are working with the Platinum Life System. So what's happening is, if you can imagine that your soul is evolving into coming home to God, to love, right? And it's been hijacked by the ego mind, which is the ego code of fear. Well, there's a lot of codes there. But what happens is, with Platinum, if we master our superpowers, and our soul has 8 incredible superpowers, and they are peace. That's a real superpower, isn't it? When you come into that place of peace, love, of course, awareness, trust is a huge superpower, integrity, neutrality, which is another word for enlightenment, unity, and mindfulness. Now, if you master Platinum, that's going to mean that you are having an experience on this planet that is like no other. However, in order to have that experience, we have to master the blocking frequencies to it. So for instance, with peace, unforgiveness is a core blocking frequency to peace. So you cannot be in the peace code if you haven't forgiven yourself or others. It's just impossible. And that's why wars continue, by the way, because people find it hard to get into that peace code. The unforgiveness code is just it's rampant on this planet, right? And for love, the core blocking frequency for love is fear. So once you're in fear, you've dropped out of your heart center. You've dropped out of that love frequency. And one code takes over the other code. So, and we're encoding ourselves over and over and over again by our thoughts, what we're saying, what we're doing. And so the idea is, if you're in a state of fear with this system, what you do is you acknowledge, this is very important. You need to wake up and train the mind to do and think what you want it to do and think, which is, oh, I'm in fear. I am feeling fear. What does that mean? Oh, it means I'm no longer in the love code. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to do a U-turn, open my heart, stop, meditate, ask myself the 4 questions, a really brilliant tool that we have, and get myself back into the love code. And probably the easiest one to understand is trust. When you are worried or anxious, what's happened is you're concerned about what's going to happen in the future, right? And you've lost your connection to trust, which is a superpower. So when you're worried,